This is Beyond Business. Witness the real lives of Cranbrook's female entrepreneurs as they candidly tell their stories, their experiences, and their struggles in raw, revealing conversations. I'm so pleased to introduce my guest today. Her name is Hockley, and she runs a photography company. I have had the pleasure of knowing her for a long time, and I've had the pleasure of seeing this business that she has start from nothing and become what it is, which has been a wonderful journey to witness. I've also been on the other end of the camera with Kara shooting, and I can say that one of the things that Kara brings to her business is this ability to make people feel comfortable even when they're not comfortable in photographs. You have a way, Kara, of making people feel at ease. And when I look at the photographs that you've taken of myself or of Jody and I or of the kids, you capture who we are. So thank you.
That was so nice.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for putting yourself out there today and sharing the journey that you've had as a photographer and as a woman in business in Cranbrook. So
thanks for having me.
Let's get started. Why don't you tell me where all of this began?
Okay. Well, I was working 9-to-5 job before at a dental office and I got pregnant, had my first daughter, and I just decided I didn't want to go back to a 9-to-5 job. I wanted to be able to be flexible with my hours and be around for my children. So I have always liked photography, and my brother-in-law was a photographer and he was just starting to kind of get out of it. So I thought, perfect timing, like I can just swoop right in there. And he kind of taught me a few things, and then I just went for it.
So I just want to slow down for a second because I think what you started with is such a big piece of why women consider being entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And it's that piece about having flexibility and having freedom to do other things that matter to us. Mm-hmm. Because even though our work matters to us as women, there's so much more to what we're doing. So that catalyst for wanting change for you was the birth of your first daughter.
Yeah, for sure.
And just knowing that I want my life to look different.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in an office, and I don't want to be working in order to pay for daycare for my child. Yeah. I want to be able to be home.
I wanted to be able to look after them myself. So, and I mostly have my daughter's 8 now, and then I have a 4-year-old and another one on the way. So yeah, I want to be able to be there with them and raise them myself, and also be able to do what I love, which is photography. So
there's a lot of different businesses that allow you to have the flexibility and to create your own schedule. And you just said that you love photography. Mm-hmm. So how long have you loved photography? I mean, you can tell when you look at your photos, I can tell that this is a craft that you love. But where did this passion start for you?
I think it was high school. I took a course in high school for photography, and I just really enjoyed it. I'm more of an artistic person anyways. Like, I wasn't really that great academically. So I just gravitate towards the arts, I guess. And photography just that's just what I liked to do. And I did it for fun. And when we'd go on trips, I would take Isaac's camera and go and take photos. And so it was really just started out like a hobby, right? And yeah, went from there.
So you're taking lots of photos and you're loving it. And I just want to say, like, I think one of the reasons why you take such beautiful pictures is you see beauty everywhere. And I know that sounds kind of cliche, but because I know you and because I see you day after day, and I've been in all of the homes that you've lived in,
lots,
you have an eye for putting things together. Like you have an innate knack for knowing what's going to look good and how to showcase beauty. So it seemed like moving into photography was almost a natural transition because you get to do what you do best, which is make all things beautiful.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember this one time we had this conversation and you were thinking about doing a project where you could showcase love through different generations.
Yeah, I did think about that. Yeah.
And when we were talking about that, that was the first time I got an inkling that it's not just photographing weddings and making things that are already beautiful look beautiful. It's also about the story of the people.
Yeah, I just like seeing the connection that people have, and that's what I want to capture is the authenticity of like a family or a couple together, and I want them to have that moment forever. I feel really blessed that I get to photograph the biggest moments in people's lives, and I get to be there for that. So I feel really honored that I get to do that, and it's really special to me that I get to be a part of that. And there's all different kinds of loves, right? Love for your children, love for your spouse, love for your parents, and I get to capture those moments for people, and they get to keep them forever, not just for themselves, but for like their generations. So that's why I think I really love what I do.
Well, it sounds like your work fuels you.
Totally does, yeah.
And it's a way to express your creativity, but it's also a way to give. Because you are definitely a giver.
Yeah, I'm a giver.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So the decision to take something that was a hobby into a business was coming out of this space of wanting to be able to be there for your family. Tell me about that process of how that evolved, because you don't have any formal education in business. Like, how come you thought you could do this? Like, where did you get the courage to step out in this?
I really didn't think of it as a business when I started. I just wanted to do it. So I did, and I didn't really know where it would lead me. I didn't know if I would, like, I wasn't really expecting to have this necessarily as a full-on career. I just kind of thought I could make a little bit of money here and there. And yeah, I went way further than I ever expected.
I love that, because I think that is something that a lot of women can relate to, that they have this hobby or that they have this passion or this desire to do something, and they're not necessarily motivated, or they don't necessarily have the pressure that this has to be a business. This has to be something that generates X amount of money. You know, and there are definitely women entrepreneurs that fit that, but I think there is just as many women who don't necessarily have the burden that they have to make a certain amount of money. And with that comes quite a bit of freedom.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't feel any pressure to make a certain amount of money or anything like that. And I was lucky enough that I didn't have to feel that pressure. And I know other women maybe did, like you just said, but yeah, it kind of just started out like I was just going to try this out, see how it would go. And it flourished, and here I am now.
So you're doing it because you want to spend time with your family, but photography happens, especially when you're doing weddings, which is the bulk of what your career has been, at least in the summer months. Yeah. Hey, around the Kootenays, a lot of people get married in the summer because it's so beautiful. That takes away a lot of family time. So tell me how you navigated that. Because your baby was little when you first started.
Yeah, well, when I first started, I didn't do very many weddings, but that grew obviously. And I think the first year that I was really busy with weddings, I think I did like 12 weddings in a summer.
That is a lot.
Yeah. So and it's not just the wedding that takes time, it's like the editing and all that. And when I don't have childcare, I'm working when they're in bed. So I work lots of nights. I work whenever they're napping. I just figured it out and went on the weekends when I wasn't at weddings. Like my husband would help and I would just get her done.
Like your husband would be with the kids
Yeah.
and you would be able to work on the weekend.
Yeah.
Because his job was more of a Monday
Monday
to
to
Friday
Friday, yeah.
at that
Yeah.
time.
And it worked out really well actually for us because most of what I do, I work in the evenings and on the weekends. And he doesn't work in the evenings or the weekends. So it worked out for us that way. And it still does.
So you just kind of split.
Yeah, it was like, yeah.
You split your time with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that is a common experience for women that want to be the main caregiver
Mm-hmm.
and also want to work
Mm-hmm.
or need to work some. And the tricky thing about that is sometimes you feel like you never get family time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is overwhelming. And I do feel like in the past, I didn't get as much family time as I was expecting or wanting. Funny because I chose this career so I could be more present and with my family, but for a while there, I felt like it was a little bit of the opposite because you just get into it and then you start like you book more and more and then you're busier and busier and I wasn't really expecting that and you have these deadlines, you have to get things out. And so, yeah, I've learned over the past few years, like what to do, take it slower, maybe take a few less weddings. And it's helped a lot. Now I can spend more time with my kids. And
so
yeah.
it's been kind of like a balancing
yeah, it's
act
a little
a
bit
bit,
of
or how would
a
you...
learning curve, I suppose. Like I had to go through it to realize how to do it properly for myself and my family.
Well, and I think in what you've just said is such a big piece
Mm-hmm.
for entrepreneurs because it's not the same when you're an entrepreneur as when you have a job and it's okay, do this is what the job is and keep, you do this and then you do that. When you're an entrepreneur, you're kind of figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of experimentation, like, is this working? Is this business model working? Okay, it's not, we're going to shift. And it's this constant trial and error piece. And it sounds like you were doing that not just on the business side of things, but also in the family things. Like, how is this going to work with
Mm-hmm.
family?
Yeah.
Especially like you said, like you started that so you could have time,
Yeah.
so that you could be the mom that you wanted
Yeah.
to be and be the wife that you wanted to be and be connected and present with your family. And then all of a sudden, this business is starting to eat into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it got a little too much for me, and I had to make a few changes, and things are getting easier and better. So I'm balancing it out a little better.
Did you feel like when you started to kind of pull back from a bit that you were risking something that you
Mm-hmm.
had built?
Definitely.
Okay, tell me a bit more
I still feel
about
like
that.
that a little bit. So I'm not going to shoot weddings next year. And it does make me scared and nervous because I do love them. And I don't want to completely cut that off. Like I'm nervous that, okay, I'll stop for a year and then what if I want to get back into it? Nobody wants to book me or something, right? Mm-hmm. Like I do have those thoughts, but I just keep telling myself, like, if it's meant to be, it'll come back and I can get back into it quite easily. I did it once, I can do it again.
Is there a part of you that is uncertain, and how do you make those decisions in the face of that uncertainty?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a risk. I guess I'm just not letting that fear in. Like I'm just having faith that if I do want to pick it up again, that I'll be able to. Also, I think because it's not like it's not a financial need for us, I think the hardest thing for me would just feel like I'd feel slightly like a failure if it didn't come back, which would be hard for me. But I'm just trusting. That's really all it is. I'm just trusting that if I want to pick it all up again, that I'll be able to.
You said a piece that stood out to me about not letting that fear in.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I just don't want to live in fear, like that's something will or will not happen.
Mm.
So I'm just letting my faith take over, and just, I feel okay with this, and I feel like if I want to pick it up again, I'll be able to. That's it.
Yeah. So
There's
the uncertainty is there,
a
but you're
little
not
bit.
letting it be loud,
Yeah.
or you're not letting the potential of it not going well govern the
Mm-hmm.
choices that you're
Mm-hmm.
making.
And I still feel confident that if I didn't get back into weddings, I can do other creative things, right? I can
Mm.
pivot a little bit more, and because I still love doing families, I still love shooting newborns, and I'm still going to do that. So it's not like I'm going to lose it all,
Right.
you know?
Well, and you don't just do photography too. Like you have other creative outlets. Like design is a creative outlet
Mm-hmm.
and there's potential there. So it doesn't feel like, from an outside perspective, I don't even know how long the trajectory is that you would stay in photography. And I think maybe that is part of growing up with entrepreneurs and around entrepreneurs. I have seen many people switch their businesses and go in completely
Mm-hmm.
different directions.
Yeah, I have too.
So for me, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Sure. Like I don't see the uncertainty in the
Mm-hmm.
same way, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. And I appreciate that there's a part of you that knows that this is what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to do what my heart is telling me to do right now, and I just want to be there for my kids and my family the most. So they're the most important right now. And I will continue to do families and smaller sessions and newborns, and I do love that as well. So, and we'll see where it takes me. Yeah.
So does it feel, knowing that you're on the cusp of this, like you've just made this decision, it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like, and so knowing that you're on the cusp of cutting out this piece of your business that not only does it generate a significant amount of income
Mm-hmm.
for you within your business, it's also a part of the business that you were first passionate about,
Yeah.
like capturing those stories of romantic love.
Yes.
And so in that decision of putting that aside, is there a feeling of loss?
A little bit. Yeah. I, yeah, I'm hoping I can still photograph couples, maybe an elopement or so. So I still have that part of my job that I love, but it's okay. I feel okay with it, because also as I've grown and been a mom, like I see that love too, right? So
You mean
families are almost just as important to me as like couples now as before, right? Do you get what I mean? Like
I do.
I didn't know necessarily that families were such a big deal for me, like photographing them, until after having kids.
Interesting. So when
Yeah.
you kind of started and you were capturing these images of romantic love, you could relate to that.
Yes.
And you loved that and you wanted to honor that.
Yeah.
And now that you're in this situation where you have two young girls and family matters
Yeah.
in a different way than it
It's way
did.
more relatable now than it was then. So I feel okay with having that. Yeah. And then maybe one day I'll get back into weddings. I don't know.
Well, one of the things that I noticed when you were talking about the decision to stop doing weddings is you were verbalizing your self-talk. Like saying things like, I might come back to this, it's going to be okay. And what I loved about hearing that self-talk is I know it's going to be all of those things that you said. That it's not forever. I've built my business once, I can do it again. And I think the way that we think about things really matters, and it has the ability to shape where we're going.
Yeah, it does.
So it's amazing to hear you and hear what you're saying, because I think one of the struggles for entrepreneurs is that we can feel alone in running a business. We can feel like, what am I doing? It's all on me, and what am I going to do? And we don't necessarily have a sounding board. So it really matters that our own thoughts are moving us in the direction that we want to go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel way more confident in my decisions business-wise than I feel like I ever have. So I'm feeling good with my decisions.
So where's that confidence coming from?
I think just as I get older and realizing what I really want and what makes me happy, I don't need to please everyone, you know? And I like to please people. And I'm starting to realize like it's okay to think about myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? Like having that change.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's new too,
Yeah,
right?
it's so hard for me to say no to people. Like when they inquire with me, I'm like, oh, could I do this? Like I could do this, but I have to say no sometimes.
You mean when like a client contacts you and wants
for weddings and things, like every time I get an inquiry for a wedding next year, I'm like, should I do it? You know, and I'm like, no, I told myself I'm not going to do it this year. Like I'm going to stick to my guns. And that's what I've been doing. So
is it getting easier the more you say no? Because I'm
Yeah.
sure you're getting like, please, Kara, you have the best lighting, please. Like
it's not quite like that, but it is getting easier. The more I say no, the more I'm like, okay, it's okay. You know?
And the more set you get in that
Yeah.
this is the path for you.
Yeah. And I want to stick to what my feelings are. I don't want to keep going back and forth. Like I need to like continue this road that I'm going on is how I feel.
So how come that matters to you? How come it matters that you need to stick with your feelings? Like have there been times in your life where you've overrode your feelings?
Yeah, like I said, I'm a people pleaser and I say yes to too much, and then I know what it's like to feel overwhelmed and too busy and not where I want to be, and I just don't want to do that again.
So can you think of an example of where that came from, or when that happened and it didn't work out for you, where you kind of shut down that part of yourself that was like, this isn't okay, and you kind of pushed through and did it anyways because somebody else was expecting? Hopefully it's not this podcast, Kara.
No. I just think I don't know if there's necessarily like one instance that made that happen. I just think like with the experience in my past and how things got so busy and so overwhelming that I just know that I need to change what I've been doing because it wasn't working for me.
I see. So it's more so that is coming from a time in business that you're like, this isn't what I wanted.
Yeah.
And
like I don't want to, also for myself, like I didn't have very much free time for myself because you're a mom and you're working. So like when do I get time to myself? I'm working when the kids go to bed. So that was also a big thing because then I feel stressed. I feel like I'm not as good as a mom or a wife. Like I want to spend time with my husband and I'm working at night or, you know, so I just want to feel that relaxation. You know, like I don't want to feel the stress like I did.
And how long do you think you carried that? Where you were?
A few years.
A few years.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a long time.
Yeah. And I mean, it wasn't bad. It wasn't all bad. Like, I'm not trying to say that it was like, oh, this is a terrible life that I live. It was great. Like, I did love shooting the weddings. I loved editing. And I just felt like I didn't want to feel the rush of it all. I wanted to feel more at ease with life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the piece around feeling overwhelmed and knowing that you need to take time for yourself, do you know that? Like, when did you figure that out? Because I know for myself, sometimes it like creeps in.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like all of a sudden I find myself in a situation. I'm like, how did I get here? And I know I've created the beast, but how did I get here?
Yeah.
Did you find that it was like a slow, like it was like increasingly getting more overwhelming? Or did you find like all of a sudden you're like, this is too much? Like, what was it like for you?
I think it was sort of just increasingly overwhelming. And I think that, you know, you get to a point where it kind of all comes ahead and you're like, whoa, like this is too much. Like I'm cranky, I'm stressed, you know, like I don't feel super happy. I'm not as excited to do some of the things that I like to do because I'm tired or whatever, right? So I just knew that, yeah, I needed to make a little bit of a change, and I want to feel just at ease with life, you know, like go with the flow kind of thing, do what I want to do.
Well, and you're married to an entrepreneur.
Yeah, we have other businesses as well. So, and I work with them as well.
Yeah, this isn't photography isn't the only thing you do. You make
No.
other things beautiful.
I try to, yeah.
Do you want to talk about that piece of design that you've done?
Yeah, we build houses. So I often get the job of picking all of the finishes, which is super fun.
You like that
Yeah,
part.
it is fun.
Yeah. So when you're saying work gets overwhelming, you're not just talking about photography.
Yeah, there's more to it.
Like there's more going on that you're a part of. Well, and I find so you have the business with building houses and the responsibility of choosing the design components and making sure that things are coming together and looking good. But you also have another business, and I know that you're not as involved in that one, and that James, your husband, is kind of at the helm of that business. But there's still that role that I find being married to an entrepreneur that they have to talk things out. And so even though I may not be directly involved in some of the front type work that Jody is with some of our companies, I still have a lot of conversations about what's happening and employees and where we're going and strategic development.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sure that that is your experience as well.
Yes. Yeah. We definitely have lots of talks about all of the businesses. And yeah, I'm not as involved as I am in the building side of things or photography as we are with my husband's business. But like you said, yeah, we just have it. You're still thinking about it and you're still having those conversations and it's still a big part of your life. Yeah.
So you were saying a little while ago about feeling like you need to take time. How do you find time for yourself, and what does that look like to keep your feeling of overwhelm less?
For me, I just need time alone.
Interesting.
So I work out usually. Right now, maybe not, but that is a way that I get to go and be by myself. And I often meet with my friends once a week, which is really amazing. But just like some time by myself without the kids, without work, it's really all I need.
So
I don't have any, like, I don't meditate or anything like that. I'm not, yeah.
if you get alone time, you feel good.
Yeah, I just need like a break from everything.
And do you think that's in part because your kids are young?
Yeah, I do.
Or did you find that you had that feeling? Well, I mean, I'm like, before you have kids, like all you have is alone time. Maybe that's not totally. I know people have busy lives that don't have kids. Like I get it. Well, I don't. I get it. But I remember what it was like to, and people are like, oh, you better enjoy sleeping in. And it's kind of like, why? I get to do this every day. I don't have to enjoy it. If I want to, I can. So it changes. Your life changes after you have kids.
Yeah.
So this need for alone time, though, is that something that you feel has always been a part of who you are as a person?
No, I think after I had kids, that's when I really needed it.
Yeah. So you create situations in order to give that. And when I'm curious, when you first started doing your photography business, did working feel kind of like your own time?
Definitely. It still does. Like when I get to go and like, I think it's more maybe the editing side of things that is so stressful for me. Like I love shooting. And oftentimes it does feel like a break.
Because you're out of the house.
Yes.
You get to be watching this love story unfold in front of you. You get to...
I mean, I'm still working, but it just feels like a break still. It's weird.
No, it's not weird to me.
Yeah.
I totally feel the same way, that when I'm working, it feels like a break from the other responsibilities that I have within the home.
Even working, like even when I'm editing, if the kids aren't there, that's like even a break. But they're usually always there. So it's like I'm doing like two things at once, like getting them snacks or whatever they want or need, and then I'm running back and working, right? So it's just so much nicer and more freeing when you're alone.
Yeah. You don't feel like you're doing parenting bad. Do you know
Mhm.
like
Yes.
that's an awkward way to
No,
say
I
it,
get
but
what you mean.
when you're working and your kids are at home, this is summer for me, right?
Yeah.
The kids are home and I'm trying to work. I feel like I don't do work as well as I do when they're at school,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't parent as well when I'm not working. So
Yeah.
and that can come with some guilt,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Totally.
That you want to be giving work the attention that you feel it deserves or needs, and yet you have these kids that you want to give time to
Mhm.
and be able to invest in.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally feel that.
So alone time means just being alone and
Mm-hmm.
having time to clear your head. And if
Mm-hmm.
you get that, you feel like you're in a good place,
Yeah.
which enables you to do
To be better.
the work that you want to do and
Yeah.
live the life that you want to be
Yeah.
living.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's good enough for me. I just need a little bit of alone time.
How did you know that this wasn't a hobby? Like
Uh,
when did it transform for you from like when did you have that feeling like, "Oh, I've created a business. I'm running a business."
I think maybe when I started shooting weddings and making more money, I was realizing like, oh, I should probably look at this more like a business than a hobby. And it did take me quite a long time though to kind of change my mindset that this is a business and not just for fun. So, yeah, if you asked my husband, he would get real super annoyed with me because he thinks business, right? And I'm like, I'm just doing this because I love it. So, yeah, it took a little while, I think, for me to start thinking of it more of like a business and that I can actually like make a decent amount of money from it. Um, I still sometimes struggle with that a little bit, but I'm trying to be better that way.
So what part do you struggle with? What do you mean?
Like, um, making like I could make probably way more money if I really thought of it as a business, and like did the businessy things that you do with photography.
Like marketing
Yeah,
maybe
like
or what?
marketing or even like social media. I don't love social media. Because I don't want to be I feel like when I'm on social media, you're on there forever, you're stuck on there. It takes forever to make reels. Like I should probably hire somebody to do it and probably I'd make more money. But I just don't have a hard time doing that. But I think I could, and I could be better business wise that way.
Mm.
So I do sometimes still think of it I'm just doing this because I love it. But trying to change my mindset a little bit.
What do you think the advantage to you would be if your mindset shifted and you did think of it more of a business?
The advantage, I think I could maybe make more money. Um, Also, I'll probably be busier though. I'm not sure I want that.
Hmm.
So, because I'm happy with where I'm at right now. But in the future, I think that I will make a lot of changes business wise, like marketing and social media and things like that.
Well, you've touched on something that I've been thinking about lately that I find really fascinating. And it's this idea that we have to keep growing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean as an individual, because that's like my mantra is like keep growing, keep
Mm-hmm.
changing. I'm so motivated by personal growth. But there's this message, I think, in our society about that businesses need to keep growing, keep changing, keep evolving, keep getting bigger, keep making more money, keep earning. And it leaves me wondering why.
Yeah.
Because how come, like, especially when you think about, like, in your situation, you started this business because you wanted to be able to be home. So you
Mm-hmm.
were working, out of the house 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and you didn't want to do that. You wanted a different life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go in that direction of getting better at all the businessy type things, all the marketing, all of those components, your business could grow because you definitely have the talent and the capacity to do that. Yet, what is the cost
Mm-hmm.
for that growth, and what would the purpose of that growth be? Like, where
Yeah.
are you going with it,
Yeah. I'm just not ready to make that leap yet, because I know it'll just make things busier, which would be great, but just not right now for me.
Well, and what I love is that you've paused,
Mm-hmm.
because I think because there's so much pressure to grow, and especially in business,
Mm-hmm.
like you keep growing your business, you keep expanding. And I think that you've paused and I just think that really is amazing, and I think that's difficult to do in this day and age. Like to step back and say no. I'm not going to run that treadmill
Mm-hmm.
or go around and keep growing this, because that's not why I chose this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's amazing that you've hit pause.
Yeah.
And I'm saying pause because I've heard in your voice that you're not saying stop.
No, I'm not saying stop. I don't want to say stop.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's not just work for you.
No, I really do love it. I just, yeah, I do want to continue it in the future. I just need some time to figure I don't know, I just need time to figure things out and be with my family for a little while. And I want to see my babies grow. They're only small for so
Yeah.
long. So,
Well, and don't you find you know that in a new way when you have
yeah, like,
an 8-year-old?
yeah,
Like you
I
know
can't
it
believe it.
you know it differently when your oldest is 8 than when they're 2. Like
Yeah.
yeah, you know that they grow fast and they go through phases, but it's so different when you see that progression.
Yeah.
Like you really get an understanding of how fast it is.
Yeah. And I think like knowing that this will be our last baby, I just really want to soak it in.
Yeah.
You know?
Just
So,
like have all the snuggles.
yeah.
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 I can appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's amazing that you're making that choice,
Mm-hmm.
and that you're shutting down those lies that you're giving up your business, or that you're not going to be able to do this in the future, because I think that those are things that could come in,
Mm-hmm.
that type of thinking. And I just appreciate that you've closed a door to that. Like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not going there. This does not mean that for
Yeah.
my business.
Yeah. I started working after I had my second baby. I started working 3 months after I had her.
3 months.
Yeah. So it wasn't crazy because it was mostly sessions rather than weddings, but like still, I'm editing, and when they're really little, it's pretty easy because you can just like snuggle on you, you can work, you can edit.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as they start walking, things get busy again, and I just don't want to have to think about like the timelines and stuff. I just want to be there with the kids.
Do you have a sense of grief for not being there?
A little bit. Yeah, especially with my oldest, I think. Yeah.
You just feel like you were so focused, because that was when your business was new,
Yeah.
right? Like you were starting your
Yeah.
business when that baby was born,
Yeah.
right?
I guess she would have been a little bit older when it got really busy, but I mean, I'm glad that I did it and everything. But yeah, a little bit of mom guilt, I guess.
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
it guilt, or is it because guilt is different than grief, right? Like guilt is feeling like you let them down, whereas grief is I feel sad that this happened.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Like they can come from the same source, but those are really different emotions. Like,
Yeah.
do you feel?
I
And
think
maybe
it
it's
is a
both.
bit more of the grief part. Like, oh, I wish I could have been a little bit more present, and not missed out on some things. Not that I like really missed out, but like even when you're with the kids, like you kind of said before, your brain is always thinking, when am I gonna have time to work? When am I gonna get that session out or whatever, right? So like I do feel a little bit of grief that I couldn't just be completely present with my kids, but I don't necessarily regret it still.
Yeah. Like you would have still made this choice, because photography is a love of yours. Doesn't measure up compared to the girls.
No.
But it's still something that you love and are passionate about, and
Yeah.
feel like it's part of what you're doing and
Yeah,
want to do.
for
Yeah.
sure.
One of the things that I tell myself, I'm going to tell you something that maybe I'm a little bit embarrassed about. I don't know. But one of the things I tell myself when I feel that feeling of loss is that, because I feel like that too. I feel like there are these moments that I've missed, and that comes from having a gazillion children.
Yeah.
It's not a gazillion, but it comes from having 5 kids, and it comes from having multiple businesses, and it comes from having a lot on the go, is that there's these moments when you feel like, oh, I wish I was there.
Yeah.
Or
Like, I wish I was better during that time for them, or
yeah.
mm-hmm.
Or like there was a season in my life where I spent a lot of time in my room because I wasn't well.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like, oh, I've missed these times.
Mm-hmm.
So the secret, the thing that I tell myself, which I feel a little bit ridiculous saying, but I always think that when I get to heaven, there's going to be this movie theater that's just for me, and I can watch anything from my life that I want to watch.
Oh, that's really sweet.
So when
I love that.
when I feel that loss, that's where I go. I go, it's my way of telling myself that I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't always be where we want to be and do what we want to do because we have responsibilities, not just to our businesses, but to our families, and not just to our kids, but our siblings and our parents.
Yeah.
So that's how I make that okay.
I love that. That's so great.
Mm-hmm. So, and sometimes when I feel like I've forgotten memories that matter to me, that's where I go. I'm like, it's okay. It's okay.
I get to rewatch this.
I get to rewatch, and I can watch it over and over and over again. So that's amazing. That's how I give myself peace about that. The work that you do is a creative work. Now, it's a different kind of creative because it's people that you're photographing, but there's an element where you have to put yourself into this to see the way the light's going to catch, or the way that you're putting this people together to tell their story, especially with photography, because it's still, there's no movement, right? So to capture who they are, there's an element that you're putting yourself into this work, which automatically means that there's a risk. This isn't just you taking photos. It's not just their wedding photos. This is your art. So how do you handle when you give back those photos to the people, to the clients? Like, what is that experience like for you? And I'm sure it's evolved because you've been doing this for a long time now. But what is it like to give your work to people and to wait for their response? Do you wait for their, like, what's that like?
I think at the beginning, I always would anticipate, like, oh my gosh, are they gonna like it? What are they gonna say? That was a big deal to me, and I mean, it still is. Obviously, I want my clients to love my work, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel just really completely happy with what I sent, and it does matter that the clients like it, but it's almost like it's more for me, if that makes sense. So if they don't like it, it's okay. To an extent.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, because it's art. Because you, even though they're the subject, you've created a piece of art. Yeah. So at some point you get to this place where you either like your art or you don't. And it doesn't matter what they think about your art. Yeah. But of course, because they are also the person paying you, yes, it does matter. But it sounds like that was probably some growth that happened for you.
Yeah, I think it was. I'm definitely a little bit more okay with it now. And for the most part, I feel pretty confident in my work. So, but I still do feel like sometimes people won't say anything after you send a gallery, and you're just like, I hope they liked it. Like, and you'll never know. I could reach out, I suppose, but that is the worst, actually. Like, I love getting feedback from my clients because it really does make me feel like, okay, I'm doing a good job, you know? Like,
so is it the piece, what is it about getting feedback that matters to you?
Just to know that people like my work, I guess. Just to know that what I'm doing it matters, and that, you know, they like it, that they will cherish it.
Well, because the motivation for doing it is because you truly do want to capture these moments. Like it's such an interesting piece when I hear you talk, because on one side I see you carrying this piece around. This is your art. It's a way to express yourself. You love photography. There's a creative element. This is you. This is your work. This is an expression of you on one side. And then on the other side, I see this piece about it's for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, in the best of times, those line up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Like you get to showcase your skill and you get to put things together and it resonates with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then other times, I'm assuming it doesn't.
I think that it's important for people to research who they're hiring, because we all have styles, right? So if someone books me and they never have looked at my work before, they're probably expecting old school. They could be expecting old school, like stare at the camera and smile, like portraits, which I don't do really, you know? So like, as long as people see my work ahead of time and they know what to expect, usually we line up.
Yeah.
It lines up really well.
Because when they're choosing a photographer, they're choosing a type of art that they like.
Yes.
Well, you know, it's funny that you say that, because I've had this conversation with my mother-in-law on a few occasions. And I've said things to her when she's choosing a photographer for family photos. I say to her, well, what do you like? Where do you want this in your house? Do you want a lot of color? Do you want a lot of background? Or do you want everything to kind of be muted and soft lights? Because different photographers are going to give you a different product. And it's not just about the subject, because the subject is the same. We're still your family. We're going to be there regardless of the photographer. But I think that that's a really good point. Like when people are coming to you, you kind of have this expectation that they've chose you. They've chose you for your work.
Yeah.
So it's going to probably
look like this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, what happens when they choose you? You know where I'm going with this. They choose you and they choose your work, but they don't actually like themselves.
That's tricky.
I guess the reason why I'm bringing this up is because there's a lot on socials, and especially for women, there can be a lot of pressure of looking a certain way or being a certain way. And we look at socials and we see all these women who look a certain way, right? And we want our family photos to measure up. We want to look the most beautiful we've ever looked on our wedding day. And not everybody that's coming to you has the same level of confidence. Or even the most beautiful ones don't necessarily feel comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah, it can be tricky. I think it's a matter of just trying your best to make them feel comfortable. Like I'm always telling my clients, you look beautiful, like you're doing amazing, like pump them up during the shoot, you know, and you just try your best to make them feel like how you see them, you know, because they are beautiful. And they just, you know, as women and men, like everybody has insecurities, but yeah. And then sometimes I'll ask people ahead of time, like, is there anything about yourself that like you really just despise, or like that you really don't want me to accentuate?
Right.
You know, things like that. And I try my best to create photos that align with that. And sometimes you can work some magic in post if things are really bothersome for people. So, yeah.
I would think that could potentially be a hard part of this. Just this expectation that people have for these photos, especially wedding photos. I think those probably carry it more than like a family photo shoot. Because for myself, I always feel that a family shoot's probably going to be a gong show. So
usually.
Just deal with it up front. Try to front load as much as possible with the kids about what's going to happen and what they need to wear. But it's probably going to be a gong show. And if you get one good photo with everybody looking like themselves, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't find that so much with you taking our photos because my kids know and love you and you have a way of drawing out who they are. But I think that a wedding photo or a maternity photo, there's a lot more weight for the women that are being photographed.
Yeah. It's a lot of pressure because like you said, it's this, especially weddings, it's like the one day, right? So you really want to make it perfect for people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think just communication, talking with them ahead of time. And like I always include engagement sessions with my weddings. So we get to work together beforehand. So they can see how I work. I can see how they are. Like if I can tell that she's maybe or him is more uncomfortable, I kind of can prepare for that on the wedding day,
Mm.
you know?
Well, and even having that experience with you front loads that this is what it's going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
So people kind of relax and ease into it
Yeah.
a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would think that that would be the hardest part is taking wedding photographs and the people not wanting them in their home,
Yeah.
you know, because not because of the quality of the photo, but because
They don't like themselves.
they don't like themselves. It's not the photo, it's how they feel.
Yeah.
Because I would assume you have clients of all types, right?
Mm-hmm.
So trying to see them the way you see them.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved when you said that, because what I heard was, I see your story of love or your story of your family, and that is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. I wish everybody would just be okay with themselves and just be in the moment, but it's not always like that,
No.
unfortunately.
But I think because your perspective, because you really do see beauty everywhere and gravitate towards it, I would assume that you find that more often
Mm-hmm.
from behind the camera than maybe other photographers do. Like I think that people that work with you probably experience that. They probably see themselves or see their story as one that's full of love or full of beauty.
Yeah, I hope so.
I guess from my seat here, being able to witness your life and witness the growth of your business, I've seen the growth in your confidence, you know, and seeing how you've changed and the woman that you've become. And I wonder if you would feel comfortable speaking to that piece about overcoming fear,
Mm-hmm.
because it's amazing that you do what you do,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
especially because the risk of rejection is so high.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something I struggle with. I think I just know that I just need to do it. So I do it. I just kind of overcome it and go for it. Like, this was really scary for me to do.
Mm.
You know, this is like the last thing I would ever want to do is be on a podcast. But here I am. So, yeah, I just think you got to go for it. You have to just do the things that you're scared of, or you're not going to go where you're supposed to go.
So that feeling of fear,
Yeah.
how long has that been a companion in your life? And when, like, from my perspective, it looks like it's not, it doesn't look present. Because I see you making decisions like, I'm not going to do weddings next summer. That is not that's a decision that could have been driven by fear, but you didn't let fear drive that decision. You drove the decision not to shoot weddings. You know, you didn't let fear make that choice for you. So I guess that's part of the transformation that I've been able to witness. So how long would you say that fear has been? Or like, where did that start?
I don't know. I think I've kind of always had a little bit of anxiety in life. You know, I don't love being the center of attention. I don't really want the spotlight on me. It's just hard for me. But yeah, I think just doing it and doing it again and again and again, you know, it just really helps with my confidence, and I get more confident every wedding I do or every session I do, right? Like, still to this day, I still feel nervous sometimes before a wedding or a shoot, or, you know, not as bad as it used to be, of course, but.
And what is it that you were afraid of before? Or what was the feeling? Because and the reason why I'm pulling this out is because this is the thing that people don't necessarily talk about, but most people experience.
Yeah.
That there is this level of fear of doing something that you don't know how to do, or this fear of the unknown. But what sets entrepreneurs apart is they do things in the face of fear, and they work through it, which is what you just said. I just do it. So how did you get up the gumption to just do it? And so that's one of my questions. The second question is, what were you afraid of?
Honestly, I don't know how I did it. I just did it. Like, there's nothing to say other than that. But
you don't know how you did it.
Yeah, I just did it. And I think having support too, like my husband's super supportive. He's always positive. That's super helpful. Having people around me, my family and friends, that's always helpful. But the second question, what am I afraid of? I think it's always been fear of what other people will think. So, and especially being in a business that's in the spotlight, kind of, right? Like, you're on social media, you're supposed to be showing your face all the time, to get the follows or whatever. And that's super hard for me.
I just want to slow down because this is so huge. You're saying that the piece that you were afraid of most is what other people think of you. And I want to slow that down because that is such a driving fear for so many people and for so many women. Like, what are people going to think of me? And when you're connected and when you're relational, that fear can have more weight. So, and you're right. Photography is a business where you're kind of in the spotlight. And because your photography is a reflection of you, it's your art, right?
Like, I could have picked a career where I'm hiding in the office. I don't have to show my face. But I didn't.
No, you chose a profession, like you say, that you're showing your work all the time, and people are looking. So you're. This is what I'm afraid of.
What I'm afraid of.
You're doing exactly what you're afraid of, and what's amazing about that is when you do that, that fear lessens. And then all of a sudden, there's this recognition of, I can do things that I'm afraid of, and the fear decreases. So that means I can do more of the things that I'm afraid of. Do you still carry that?
A little, not as much as I used to. I'm definitely way more confident. I still don't really like showing myself, like on videos and reels and things like that. It's not really my favorite thing to do, but I think it's also okay right now.
I think that probably gives you a lot of empathy for your clients.
Yeah, it does. Definitely, because I totally understand how they feel, like, it's hard to be the center of attention for some people, and I feel that. So I do definitely relate to them.
So that gives you, because you understand it, you're able to speak to their fear and say things that are going to soothe that, so that you really can capture what you're trying to capture and what it is that they're hiring you to capture.
And it also does the opposite. Like, it makes me feel more confident because I'm like, you know what, these women are doing it, or these men are in front of the camera and they're doing it. It's like, I can do that too,
So there's something inspiring when you see people do things
Yeah.
that are hard for you. Like, oh, okay, if they do it, then maybe I can do it. Or I'm going to push myself a little bit here.
Yeah.
And
because I'm telling them to do it.
yeah. How can I ask them if I'm not willing to?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. I think it's amazing that you are working towards, or that you've worked towards overcoming that, and that you made the decision to embark on this even in the face of fear.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, because it gives it creates confidence.
Yeah, it does. It's definitely made me a better person.
Which you
I wouldn't be where I am today without photography. Definitely.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I never really thought of that before.
Epiphany. I love that. I love that piece, that something that you've given to photography has given back this to you. And I mean, I know photography, like I know that our work should be like that. And I know that this business has been like that, but that's such a beautiful piece because regardless of what you do, you know, whether you stay in photography or whether you move into another creative venture or whether you expand the other business with the design piece, you're not going to lose that gift that photography's given you of confidence, and I can put myself out there even if I'm afraid. I can overcome.
Yeah.
That's a
Pretty
beautiful.
amazing.
It is. That's a beautiful piece. And I think that that's one of the things that work should do for us.
Yeah.
I think work should challenge us, and I think that it should give us space to grow.
Yeah. And it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to be challenged and do the things that scare you, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and do you know that not everybody thinks that way?
Yeah, I do. I learn a lot of that also with my children, you know, like I'm telling them, like, you have to push through your fears. Like, you got to do this, you got to do that. I'm like, their example, you know, so I have to do the hard things too.
Well, that's a bit of the weight of motherhood, right? Like wanting your kids to have the freedoms that you never had and be that example so that they don't have to be a slave to things that maybe we were a slave to. Yeah.
Emotional, sorry.
No, it makes it worthwhile. It makes it, when it's hard and you push through, it's like, it doesn't matter if photography ever paid a dime. If you can take this and set your kids up for where you, and be able to use this to learn that piece about yourself so that you can encourage your kids to be confident and give them the tools to overcome so they don't have to struggle through things. You know, I didn't know we were going here, but I'm so glad we did, because this is really the heart of what Beyond Business is for me. It's about that if we can share our stories, then our ceiling can become the next generation's floor.
Yeah.
And it's not just for people in business, it's also for people in life. It's for our kids, it's for our sisters, it's for our mothers, it's for all of us, it's for our community. Don't learn everything from the start. Let me help you learn things, you know, like let's share this knowledge so that people can be ahead. And I just think what's happening for you and what's happened, that you have had freedom from this, and now that you're able to model that so your girls can have freedom, is, I think that's beautiful. So thank you for being open to sharing that piece. It really is a gift for me that you would be vulnerable in this way. And
well, it's a gift that you push me to do things like this. So, you know, I'm happy I have people like you in my life.
Yeah. Well, because it's like that, you know, because I think when people push us to do things, we learn things about ourselves and we challenge ourselves. And yeah.